Welcome back, everybody, to It's Time. Linsly and I are so excited to be here with you today. And I know we've kind of done a couple really heavy things lately with taking care of aging parents, and then we kind of did our Off the Grid podcast. Today, we're going to come back kind of following up on Off the Grid we've both been traveling a ton. In fact, we live in the same town, and I don't think I've seen Linsly in person in like 6 or 7 weeks because
Yes.
he was gone, I was gone, work, kids, self-care, all of it. Like we've just kind of ping-ponged around. And now we're home for a bit, but summer's gearing up. And so Lynn's had the greatest idea of we need to do a travel episode.
Yes, because we all travel, and especially this cohort of women, it's work travel, it's family travel, it's summer travel, and I feel like there's a lot of the block and tackle that we know, so we'll just make sure to underscore those things. But I also feel like we've kind of stumbled upon some tips and tricks which make the energy easier and make the ability to kind of continue, even if it's a little bit of a roller coaster or a little bumpy, continue the overarching arc of upward trajectory in whatever your wellness ideas are.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into the tricks to kind of keep the hydration because we know it's important no matter what, especially important on the road and in airplanes. And trying to do that and with all the electrolytes and all the kind of special hydration can feel like a chore, and it doesn't have to.
Absolutely. So, one thing that I have found is I'm a notoriously bad hydrator, and I'll just put that out there. I'm never thirsty. I think that comes from years of being in an operating room and not having access to a restroom when I needed or wanted, similar to being on a road trip. Like sometimes you're just stuck. So I would just counter that. I would take that environment and just say, okay, I just won't drink anything. It's terrible for you. So I really have found that using some electrolytes in water helps me stay hydrated without producing that need to go to the restroom quite as often, because that water is getting absorbed, it's getting into my cells instead of just being filtered through my kidneys. And so I love that idea. And my new like one have to is I have my water bottle with me, and when I get through security, I fill it up, I put my electrolytes in it, and I make myself drink a whole bottle before I get on the plane.
Yes, I love that because I think that that is the nuance that I've adopted as well is I double down on water early in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I don't want to wake myself up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And you get a higher energy kicker when you have all that hydration earlier in the day. So I'm like, all right, this is when I can just knock out. I'm sitting on an airplane, just going to power this out. And so even that, taking that bottle and then trying to double it if you can, just to get as much of it as you can get in the first half of your day, is kind of a little bit of a hack, is an overused word, but a way to get there quickly.
Yeah. The other thing I really, and I'm not great at this yet, but I'm trying to do it better and better, is I feel like there is sometimes a long lag between landing and getting to your final destination, where
Yes.
even the ability, depending on where you're traveling, to get water can be difficult. So what I've tried to do is before I leave the airport to fill up my same water container again to make sure I have water for that kind of next stage of travel.
Yeah. I think the biggest adjustment I've made too, this is such a silly one, but I can't drink tomato juice on the plane anymore because it dehydrates me so much. So that was just be one of my favorite treats as a kid on the plane was tomato juice, but no
Yeah.
more. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got to
Adult up.
adulting is hard. Adulting is hard. So what about supplements? What supplements do you, I think one, prioritize to take like your home regimen that you want to take with you, because we don't all want to haul everything with us. And then two, any travel specific supplements that you like to use during travel to help make that process better.
Yes. So in addition to the electrolytes, the kind of go-to that I bring no matter what is I do bring vitamin D and K, and I'm doing all the stuff as I'm doing for bones. So I bring all of that with me. And then magnesium, like just if I only could take one, it'd be the magnesium and just be taking that all through the day and taking it through night for all of the different myriad of reasons why magnesium is good for us. And then the one I add in a little extra booster of C because of just the immunity protection,
Mhm.
and then charcoal, which is a detoxifier. And so it's not one you want to take daily because charcoal is like it's too much on your system to take it daily. But it's one of those things where if you're traveling or you've been working really hard, so you're generating a ton of cortisol, it kind of attaches to everything in and sucks it out. So charcoal supplements you can get over the counter.
Okay. And I've actually never used a charcoal supplement other than using activated charcoal, and nobody wants that because that's what we use to give kids in the emergency room or people who have ingested something to vomit. So that's not what we're talking about. So let's reframe this for everyone. Like, how would you recommend someone uses a charcoal supplement? Like, probably don't want to try it for the first time, like on the airplane. Like, how do you
Yeah,
recommend?
definitely not. And so, and I also wouldn't do it for more than like a 4-day regimen.
Okay,
And so, if you've tried it and you, I mean, it's, I don't, I should actually look it up. Maybe we do this in our show notes. Is to know, I don't think there's like a negative side effect that people run into, like a stomach ache or anything that's really going to be shocking. But you should always test everything before you get yourself up on an airplane. But I basically do it the first day I travel. So,
okay,
let's say I'm going to do a week trip. I'll do it day one and day two, and then I'll do it at the end of the trip, like,
got it,
last day of the trip, and then the first day I'm home. And
got
then
it.
I think you can cycle it, like take a week off and then come back in and you're like, hey, I had 2 weeks on the road and I want to kind of do one more little detoxification on charcoal. That's the way I would
Okay,
do the regimen.
and okay to take it while you're doing your other supplements too.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
doesn't have any contra interjections. I can never say that word. Dr. Jen has to tell me that word.
you're good. You got it. You got it. Okay, and then how do you feel about melatonin in travel?
Well, I think you've taught me a ton about melatonin and what it's really good for versus what it's not. And so the lesson I took from you is that it is good for letting your body know it's time to sleep. So I take it if we're doing massive time zone changes. So it's basically the jet lag secret weapon. And I don't take it if I'm trying to go get sleepy. I just take it when I'm trying to tell my body it's time to sleep and we've changed time zones.
Yeah, that's kind of how I recommend using it as well. I am one of those people that gets crazy dreams with melatonin, so I actually cannot take extra melatonin, but just to throw it in there, and we don't have any relationship with this company at all, but there's a great app called the Time Shifter app that if you're doing long haul travel, several, two, three, four time zones or more, you can plug in the exact dates you're traveling and even your flights, and it will give you, because the great thing about melatonin is you can start using it a couple days ahead of time to really start to adjust your circadian rhythm to be more aligned with your destination. And so you don't
Yeah.
have to wait till the day you travel. And it's actually much better if you start a couple days before. But this app is awesome. It will give you like 3 days prior to leaving, like what the small adjustments to start making. And then on the day of travel, we'll tell you when to turn the lights on, when to be dark, when to take your melatonin, when to drink your coffee. And so it's super helpful. So I highly recommend it because melatonin is one of those things that if you do it wrong, it's not going to hurt you. It's just going to
Yeah.
impact your ability to sleep.
Yeah.
But if you do it
Yeah.
right, it can really help you adjust to a new time zone
Yeah.
much quicker.
As you were describing that, it reminded me, I've been reading a little bit about primrose oil. Is that one on your radar at all?
No, it's not.
It's supposed to be helpful for just kind of, it's like an herbal equivalent of progesterone. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's a soother and it could help on the sleep front traveling. So I'm not sure. I'm an ardent recommender right now, but one to put in the, see if it's a winner for people.
Well, since we're talking about sleep, we always kind of outline what we're going to talk about. I'm going to swap the order of the next ones. Let's talk about sleep kits because I think this is a great thing to take with you when you travel. So, what do you put in yours?
So I have kind of four things in it. One is I love my eye mask. I mean, I'd be wearing it right now, but then I wouldn't be able to see you. I love that thing so much. My eye mask. And then the other thing I do at home in order to have it be effective on the road is I use white noise because I want it to be the same sound in my bedroom as it is on the road. And white noise is the only way I can control for that. So I bring that it's an app on the phone. I bring earplugs. I don't always use them. I just like to have them there kind of as a little security blanket that I can need to have if I need them. And then I bring a little essential oil, a lavender, and I kind of put that on my temples and I put it kind of around on the pillow. And then I guess I said four things, but there are two other things I bring. One is the tape the mouth. I bring that on the road. That's pretty easy. And then I always have my silk pajamas because they just feel better on the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about you?
Similar, I think either a pillowcase or a pillow just to have something that feels familiar, I think is really important. I think the eye mask, I think having something that sounds similar is really important. The other thing that I bring, and this doesn't really go necessarily in sleep kit, but something that I do try to travel with are compression socks, especially if
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
on
yeah,
like a long flight or even a long road trip these days just to help with my circulation and from kind of if I am trying to sleep on a plane, I just find them they're comfortable and my legs don't get as achy from being in that same position. So I do try to, bring my compression socks. And then The last thing I almost always travel with is this really big scarf that can be a scarf or a blanket or a pillow or a neck support. It kind of is multifunctional. And in fact, it's funny. My friends are like, "Can I borrow the sleep scarf?" I'm like, "Sure, you can take the sleep scarf." So I
That's a
think if
great
you
idea.
have something like that, they're easy to pack. You can wear it, but you can then use it a lot of different ways in the car or on the airplane or on a train or however you're traveling.
Yeah. That's a great idea. So I think everybody knows, because you said compression socks, I think everybody is smarter than I am because when I went to Africa with a couple of doctors who also recommended compression socks, they said compression hose. And so I went to the drugstore and I got like pantyhose that go up to your knees. And they're like, "You're such an idiot." Luckily, they had extra, but you can't, because they told me you can get them at the drugstore. You can get compression socks at the drugstore. They just are socks and not hose.
Yeah. So yeah, they're like knee high. They're not attractive. It's what you see like when you see the, wonderful 90-year-old grandpa walking around with his black socks up to his knees and his shorts. Like those are what you're going for.
Yeah, that's the look.
And I also think they feel great when you take them off. It is that
Mhm.
wonderful feeling of a little bit of freedom, but especially if you have any circulation problems, we know that starts as we start to age. And if we're trying to hydrate, maybe we have a little extra fluid on board. So I do think they're really comfortable for people that are at risk of blood clots. It has been shown to help with blood clotting, help prevent blood clots as well. So
Awesome.
lots of benefits from those things. But yes, probably not just the knee-high pantyhose from the drugstore. That's an awesome story.
Yes, yes. Do you bring anything? Because when we're talking about kits, it reminds me just of things we pack. Like, do you bring anything for workouts on the road?
Yes. So now I think this goes back to what we're going to get into when we get into scheduling and kind of giving yourself some grace. I almost go, my running shoes go universally with me everywhere I go. Now, with kind of the fashion changes of you can wear sneakers everywhere now, which I love. I do have a couple pairs of my dress sneakers that are supportive and comfortable enough that I can run in. So if I'm gone for like 24 or 48 hours and bringing my big old lady padded running shoes is not convenient, I will take kind of one of these hybrid pairs that I can wear walking, running, etc. Because the other weird thing, and this is super weird, I don't walk in my running shoes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I always take that. And then, I take a cup. I almost always do take workout stuff with me. And one is if I have it, I'm much more likely to do it.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I definitely bring my workout clothes. No, no
Oh, are you
question.
talking equipment? Sorry, I
Yeah.
may have
Well,
missed.
yeah. So some of the stuff that I've been bringing recently is like I bring some of the. I'll bring a band always just in case.
Yep.
And I have been bringing BFR. So I've been bringing my BFR bands and they take a little more space, but I love them because if I, for some reason, we'll talk about hotel choices in a minute, but if for some reason I end up somewhere and doesn't have a great gym, I know the BFR bands are going to take a Tabata workout next level. So I love that. And then I also have been traveling in the vest, the weighted vest and the weighted gear, which is hilarious in security. I mean, you can make it through. It's not like a big problem, but I love it because you're walking around in the airport and you're walking up and down stairs and you're getting these little exercise snacks in because you have on the weighted stuff.
Yeah. No, that's a great call. And I'm sorry I misunderstood. Of course, you take your exercise stuff. If I'm gone for a week or more, I definitely bring the BFR bands. I agree with you. I think those just can amplify a workout if you have limited access to things or only, if you're starting to lift heavy and now you just have access to body weight, they can really still give you the physiologic
Yeah.
implications of lifting heavy. And so I think that's great. And I do have just a packet of small resistance bands. I mean, it's like the size of a coin purse. And I throw
Yes.
those in and can do some lower extremity stuff with those as well. So yeah, those are my kind of go-tos. If I'm just gone for a couple days, definitely just bring the little pack of bands.
Yeah.
If gone for longer, pack the BFR.
BFRs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talk about hotel stuff, because I think you and I have had a lot of fun with this lately. So this summer, like, Tessa's going to be in New York for like 2 weeks. And so I'm going to be there for a week and Chris is going to be for a week. And I just threw it in chat GBT and it was like, I need a hotel near this destination. I want it to have really good fitness and really good access to a coffee shop. And I wanted to optimize my Marriott Bonvoy points. And it was like, zoop, spit out the answer. And it saved me like, 20 minutes of whatever you do
Great
when you're
idea.
doing that stuff. So that could be kind of a quick time saver for people.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing, so if we're going to be on the subject of New York, I just got back from New York 2 days ago and kind of had the opposite thing, forgot to book my hotel. until the day I was leaving. And I was like, okay, this is close. I can walk everywhere to where I need to be.
Yes.
And went to go down to the gym, and it was 70s and sunny in the city. I
Yeah.
mean, it was beautiful. And I go down into the gym that's in the basement, and it is literally a black box. And it was a really nice gym. Like, people were there working out that weren't even hotel guests. Like, it's where they go to work out. And I was like, I can't be in this black box. Like, it is a beautiful day. So give yourself some grace too, even if you plan for that, that sometimes this is a great opportunity to move differently for a couple
For
of weeks.
sure. Yes.
And so I was like, pivot, I'm going outside. Like, it's way
Yes.
too beautiful not to be outside. And so I did a run where I was like, I am going to just keep going. So whatever direction I can cross the street when I get to the intersection, that's where I'm going. Now make sure you have some sort of navigation device with you, because
Yes.
after about 3 miles, I had no idea how to get back to where I had left. But it was great, right? It was such a great way to explore the city. And I was just like, instead of like planning a route and having to stop at every intersection, it was great. I'm just like, where I can cross the street is where I'm going to go. And if I can't cross the street, I'm going to turn right.
Yeah, no, I used to love doing that when we would travel. Chris and I would travel before we had kids. That was the way we'd learn a town. We would just like go run it and then come back. So that I love that the suggestion. Okay, so we started to kind of jump around, but we wanted to talk a little bit in the beginning on block and tackle on compassionate scheduling. So compassionate scheduling, this is something I kind of had to introduce in the last couple of years because I used to be, I know like you were, go, 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 like get on the earliest plane and get there and go immediately to meetings and just optimize the amount of time that you're there and then optimize turning around when you get back. And it's exhausting. And so one of the things I've mindfully done now is just say, I'm going to take a comfortable flight out there and I'm going to arrive at a comfortable time. Not sometimes you can't do both of those things, but many times you can. And even if that means I'm going to have a layover in Amsterdam and enjoy the KLM lounge, I'm going to do that so that it is a smooth travel experience. And then on the backside, when I come back, I just kind of book a day, a buffer day. Like there's just nothing that's going to happen. And I might not even tell people except for you that I'm back, because I don't want to know that I need to do anything until that recovery day is in there as well.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of reintegration into real life is really important. And sometimes it doesn't matter if you've been gone 2 days or 2 weeks, but just I got back super late and I was like, oh, I should get up at 5 and work out. And I was like, I'm not, just to give yourself again that grace. So I love that compassionate scheduling. And I think that's really important too when we're traveling with our families. I think in an effort, travel's expensive. And so we try to cram a lot in because who knows if we'll get back there, and we want to experience everything. But finding beauty in the kind of quieter moments, I think is really helpful as well. I think there's travel and there's vacation, and those two sometimes are not the same.
Yeah.
But I have learned that, especially if I'm with my kids, or, if we plan family stuff and I'm taking an aging parent, like, you
Mhm.
really have to ratchet back what you're going to do. But there's such beauty in that. And so I've really had to kind of consciously even schedule while we're gone
Yes.
passionately.
Yeah. And I think another thing I know we both have done this recently in business travel too. Another thing on the schedule front is to schedule something that is just for you in that day as well. Just something that feeds your soul. And it could be a museum or it could be a 20-minute walk or whatever. But just to mindfully choose something that is going to be about just you on that trip to keep your energy while you're in that go, go, go mode.
Yeah, I think it's great advice. It's great advice.
Awesome. We talked about our sleep kits. The on the exercise front too, and I think you did a great example of this on just going outside and enjoying where you are. But I think the other thing to give yourself credit for is all the easy exercise snacks you can grab when you're traveling. So maybe you don't have time to go grab a run in the morning because you got to get to your meeting or whatever you're doing. But you can do a lot of exercise snacks in just about any environment, running up and downstairs and enjoying the extra walk.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree. And I think getting, again, it's a great way to explore something. Obviously, you want to ensure that you're in a safe place, but I love being in cities where I can walk and try to, I will trade 20 minutes of sleep to be able to get up and walk somewhere instead of have to drive or take an Uber or do those things. And so, totally agree. And I think I have come like it takes a mindset shift a little bit to say, oh, I didn't have this dedicated workout today. But you find sometimes you walk or you move twice as much if you
Yeah.
just kind of embrace the organic movement that can be built in. And you're right, take the stairs once or all these little different things.
Yeah. Um, okay.
On that too, before we move off of that, I also think that, most of us are pretty regimented at home, right? We
Right.
have the things that we do. There's often not a ton of variety, right? Like we have our kind of our schedules like this is a lifting day, this is a hit day, this is a running day. And, maybe we get a little bit better about sprinkling in some pickleball or some skiing or some hobby like activities. But sometimes vacation is a really great way to let your body reset where you would never take that time at home. You would never take a week off or change the way you're moving. And that's really good for your body and your mind to have that chance to reset, repair, maybe move in a little bit different way. Maybe you go dancing one night where you don't dance at home, or all of these different things that equate to moving, but are also really letting your body and your mind recharge. And so when you come home, you're invigorated to get back in instead of feeling just kind of guilty, etc. So I think it's really good time to say, it's okay that I did something different and my body and my mind need that.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. When we were talking about hotel and finding the hotel, one of the things that I've started to do a little bit more mindfully is proactively ask the hotel for what I want in the room and what I don't want, depending upon, if I'm doing one of my detoxes or I'm doing a dry January or whatever. It's like I've asked things to be pulled out of a hotel room and I've asked things to be put in like extra waters and things like that. And I think people sometimes don't realize you can do that.
Yeah. No, that's a good, and even if you forget something, right? Like there's many hotel chains that actually have shoes if you didn't bring your running shoes, or exercise gear if you didn't bring that. And so I think, there's a lot of opportunities like that. And that's a great point. And I also think kind of combining this hotel stuff, like look what's around your hotel too. There might be a really cool, we've both just been in New York recently. There's so many different cool ways to exercise and different types of classes and places you can just kind of pop in. And so also asking your hotel using the concierge service to say, what's around here? Is there a great trail running route? Is there a cool place to exercise that I might not be aware of? Or, all of those things. I think kind of leaning into the resources that are available would be great. But I love the idea of customizing your hotel room too.
As you said that, I was reminded of my brother who, we've been back and forth with my taking care of my mom. And he's also a big fitness, wellness focused person. And he found that if you go to Planet Fitness and you let him know you're going to be there for a week, you can use that gym for like $1. So
Oh, wow.
I think they're everywhere. And I know
Yeah.
it's not, maybe everybody has different kind of gyms they like, but this is in Little Bernie, Texas, right? Like there's not a lot of gyms there. In fact, it's hard to find a hotel that has a really good gym. And so that is kind of another tip just to have in your mind is you might be surprised that there's a chain that you can get really affordable access to as well.
Yeah. Talk to me about your kind of pre-packed travel bag because I think this is such a great idea, especially if you're a frequent traveler.
Yes. So I have to confess that I have, I think, a great pre-packed strategy because I totally stole it from my friend Jan Swartz, who's in the cruise line business for decades and traveled all the time. And she literally has like an exact replica of everything she uses just pre-packed in her bag. So it's pre-packed makeup bag, toiletries, and then also workout clothes, shoes. So when she's pulling out her bag, it's literally like, I'm going to vary one or two outfits. And she has it pre-packed ready to go at the last minute notice. So when she goes and changes the clothes and does the laundry, etc., for whatever she wore, she goes and then immediately repacks it. So it is just right now under my bed, I have the workout gear. I pack it for like a 3-day trip. So it's not always a 7-day pack, but it's just packed with a 3-day trip for workout shoes. And then I have just my makeup bag, which is an exact replica of everything I use, and a small toiletry version of that, which I take out of that and then stick in my backpack so that if my bag is not available for whatever reason, I've got it.
I love that idea. And I think there's nothing more frustrating than getting someplace and not having like one of your absolute staples. And so, yes, it is a little bit of an investment to duplicate things, but it's also nice then, like if you run out of something at home, you have a backup. It's kind of like
It's true,
this.
it's true. But I even have, I have my supplements in there now. So I've got, my little, all the Great Gnarly product that,
Mhm.
Shannon turned us on to. I've got, my daily doses of all of that. So anyway, it just makes it easier to just walk out the door and go.
Love it. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about like how to savor our travel, and
Yes.
whether we're traveling for work or to take care of aging parents or visit kids in college or with our families for fun and vacation. Like going, I think, first of all, the ability to travel has gotten so much easier. It used to be the like ultimate. Remember when you used to get dressed up to get on the airplane?
Oh my gosh, I do remember that.
Yeah, right? Like, it was a big deal, and it's funny, I think, I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, I had friends that never flew until they were adults, right? I mean, I think my husband had never really traveled until we got married,
Yeah.
And so, like, traveling is still it's gotten much easier, but it is still a luxury, kind of regardless of what we're traveling, and you can find wonderful things everywhere you go, so to make sure to take the time to do that. So what are your favorite tips and tricks for that?
Well, so there's kind of three things that I love to do. One is I'll take a kind of off the hook picture of something that's iconic for that place or that day. So, like when we went to DC, there was just some amazing graffiti art that was all over 3 blocks. And I just did like a photo montage of that and saved that. I found recently with my kids now, like we just did a staycation here for over the Easter holiday for one night, and we had done one 2 years ago, and they didn't really remember it. And so I could pull out some of those iconic little. Remember we took this picture, or this was the really funky bunk beds we were all in. So that's kind of I'm mindfully I'm like, what's going to be the one picture that I try to take, and then I usually try to share that out with a text. And then I found, back when I was using social media, like in 2016, I had done it there too. So it was kind of fun to go back and see what some of those things were. So if you're using social media, that can be a fun way to have the record of it. The second thing is I'll do a little mini album of wherever I'm going because I'll kind of then go share that, obviously, with people when you're traveling with, but just also for myself to remind me, oh, yeah, it was New York, July, or whatever that is. And then the third thing that I've been trying to do is try to have some kind of a music connection to it, whether it's a playlist for the trip or whether it's something that I heard and a song that I was inspired and try to create a little quick Spotify note around that too.
I love all of those. Those are great ideas. And I think it also can turn into something really cool. I don't know if your kids do this, but my kids take my phone all the time and go through old pictures. Like it is one of their favorite pastimes. And so for a while, what I was doing, and I need to get back to this, is with that picture idea, there's so many companies that will take your digital photos and put them into an actual book for you that we used to make a book a vacation.
Yeah, a little chapbook.
And we just come home, dump the photos into whatever
Yes.
app or website you're using, and 2 days later you get this really cool photo book. And
Yeah.
that's actually what we would gift to my parents, like at Christmas. We'd be like, this was our year, because they don't want anything anymore, and they would just have all of these different pictures for us, some that they were included in, some that we did without them, and they used to just love that. And so it's such an easy way to start to collect those memories and store them and share them. And even with the digital, this was a really great idea. One of my girlfriends had a birthday in November, and her sister set up a digital frame with kind of just a Google Drive of pictures. But every time we put a picture in that Google Drive, it's connected to her frame.
Yes.
And so it's like you see
Yeah.
a cool sign when you're out traveling, you take it and you can share it. So there's so many
Yes.
ways to connect with where you are and what you're doing. It's just such an important thing. And so take the
Yeah.
time to take a cool picture.
I love that. And one of the things I've started doing again, and it kind of lapsed for like literally 10 years. I think once we started having phones with pictures, I came from the arts and crafts world at one
Yeah,
time, and I'm not a crafter, but I did do scrapbooking because that was like my one thing that I could participate in with our industry with scrapbooking. And I have like 30 of these downstairs in our what we called memory lane, and they were physical. Like it was like you'd have the subway ticket or you'd
hmm,
have playbill, and I loved the three-dimensionality of it, but
yeah,
I lost that. And so just in the last year I've started trying to collect some of those physical elements again. I don't know how I'll integrate it. Maybe that'll be a challenge. We come back and check in September and see if I did any of it summer travel. But if there's a way to also even take a picture of that physical stuff, I think it's kind of a cool way to bring the history up in 10 years time and to make it
absolutely.
come to life more than just the picture of the scenery or the picture of the people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it is, with that. So especially when we're traveling, overseas or taking kind of a big pivotal trip in our family's life, I bring back stuff. And again, I haven't done anything with it, but I also think my kids are going to remember all of these details. And you forget how young they are sometimes. Like I
Yes.
felt like we just took them to London and Paris, and it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that was such a big trip for them. It was a big trip for our family, and
Yeah.
then have what we did at the time. We went and saw Wicked when Wicked was in London, and they were so into that at the time. And so just having that idea of having a physical reminder is I think super important.
Yeah. What are any other things you do to savor your travel?
I think food for sure. I think it is a time where there's again it's exploring culture and connecting with people, and so I try not to be as worried about the things I'm eating or not eating, and just embrace that time of different restaurants, different flavors. Even, as hard as this is for us, different eating times, you're in different places and
Yes.
not everybody eats at 5:30 p.m.
In fact, nobody does.
Right? And so
I don't
I
think that
think,
longevity trend is caught on in Europe. That's not happening.
yeah. And so I do think that there is, just kind of savoring the culture where you are, and understanding that, yes, maybe I'm not going to sleep quite as well tonight, and just not worrying about that. I just was in New York for a few days, and also savoring what's great. I was like, I'm so excited to have a New York bagel, like a true New
Yes.
York bagel. And I'm not, um and so I do really think about that now when I'm traveling. And I don't feel like I live a very restrictive lifestyle even at home. I'm conscious that I eat healthy without restricting what I have access to. But I think just not being afraid to explore and try things, especially if they're things that are different than what I would have at home, and then really using that connection piece. I really have enjoyed learning about these different cultures a lot through food, through pairing food with wine or different things like that. And maybe being just splurging a little bit more on some of those things than what I would do in my day in, day out life.
Yeah. I love that. Then I think, when you're doing the family travel, you're all together. But even when you're traveling with your family, one of the things I know I mentioned this on our conversation last week, but I'm loving staying in touch with people and being able to do that with really like, video messages and audio messages that feel human and not just the text and not just the emails. And because you can't always match up on the same time with FaceTimes or phone calls even because you're different time zones, or if you've left your family, they're in the middle of that crazy routine that it's really hard to insert yourself in from afar. So I'm finding that as another travel saver tip for me, is to savor the place I'm in and still feel connected to the people who are not in that same place.
And to add on to that, I used to worry about reaching out to people where I was going if I had a friend or a colleague there, because I knew I wasn't going to have time. Lately, I've been just not worrying about that and saying, "Hey, I'm close to you. I just wanted to say hi."
Yeah.
This is a no strings attached, me just reaching out because I'm in your vicinity and I'm thinking about you. And I just did that with one of my dear college friends when I was in New York. I was in the back of the Uber going through Brooklyn, and I just, sent her a voice text actually. I said, I'm driving down the street we walked on the last time I was here. I'm thinking about you. I hope you're well. Let's connect soon. And so I think that it's a really great time to even reestablish some new connections, and just not to worry so much about, I'm not going to see you, so I'm not going to tell you I'm here. And so I've really tried, that goes back to my trying to say yes to doing something new, or saying yes to an invitation, is when I'm in a certain place, I'm just going to reach out and say hi.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Except for if you do that when I'm in the same place as you are, I'm going to stalk you. I feel like I'm going to find you.
Again, then it creates this great thing to say, I am going to say yes, right? Like if I never reached out, and you happen to have time and we can get coffee, that's even better, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it all works out. And like it was great. She called me. I knew I wasn't going to have time, and she called me back and she was like, "Oh my gosh, we've both been sick. Blah blah blah." But it was like, that is probably a time period where I probably wouldn't have talked to her for 6 months. And it was just another connection point, right? And it was beautiful in its own way. And so I think we overlook those opportunities if we're not sure they're going to march out and schedule out, et cetera. And I think in today's world, people just want to hear somebody's voice, like you said, and just, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
It means
So
a
true.
lot.
It's true. Okay, so any other things that we think are kind of helpful for people to stay energized in travel, to do it differently than maybe did it in the last couple of years?
So I would say let's go back through our just kind of big hitters because I,
Let's go.
despite
Yeah.
our very organized outline per
Yes,
usual, we've
we're
kind of
jumping around.
gone a little
Should we
tangential.
just go through it with our pillars?
Yeah,
Like,
let's do it.
yeah.
Okay.
So on the movement front, we said exercise snacks. You can do it. Lightweight
Absolutely.
things to carry.
Yep. And then I think embrace a different type of movement, and maybe it's a chance also to optimize recovery,
Yeah.
like more recovery style moving than really other types of more strenuous moving if you just don't have access to your normal routine.
Yep. And you can find a gym through some chat GBT or maybe a local chain that'll give you a deal. Um, and carry your tennis shoes on the plane,
Yeah,
just in
absolutely.
case. Okay.
Sleeping,
Bring the sleep kit. I
bring the
love that.
sleep kit, eye mask, earplugs, pillowcase,
They're little
lavender.
and they're cute and,
Yeah.
easy and lightweight.
Yeah. Check out something like Time Shifter. If you have a big trip, lots of time zones, just know that there are some things you can do and it depends on the direction you're traveling. So that, there's certain things you want to do moving up to travel if you're going east versus west. And so to really reduce jet lag and improve your quality of sleep when you get there. So I think um, though using those programs, those apps can be really,
Yeah.
really helpful.
And you know what? Also, as you were talking about how, you get somewhere last minute, you don't have a hotel. I don't know if have you used Hotel Tonight? Do you ever
No.
use that app? Okay, this is an awesome app, so I definitely want to mention it because I use it all the time. Even if I've already pre-planned a place, I will wait to book it and I will run Hotel Tonight. It's an app, and you can book a couple of nights in advance, but you will always get like at least 30 or 40% off the lowest published rate.
Wow.
So, sometimes it's not perfect because it doesn't find the exact configuration you're looking for, but 9 out of 10 times I do. I find the exact config and it's a great savings. So put that one out there in
Great.
the sleeping. Feel like hydrating, some supplements to help kind of mitigate the effect of travel. And you're on an adventure. So nourish yourself with what's part of that adventure and embrace that and have compassion with that.
You nailed it. I have nothing to add there. Mindset. So we talked about putting a buffer day in your travel to let yourself, your household readjust to leaving and coming back, to not just kind of jump back in, to let yourself recalibrate a little bit. And I think staying curious, you're in a new space. And so I love the idea of staying curious and exploring and having that mindset that there is beauty everywhere. And I think to couple this is your idea of doing something for yourself. So, whether that's a museum or a park or a book or a coffee in a coffee shop you've always wanted to try, taking that time and that moment to say, I'm going to do this. I have the opportunity.
Yes, I love that. Good stuff.
And
Community, staying
community.
connected,
Yeah.
staying connected easy ways. I love the human voice and the videos and things like that.
And I also think it's a really great time with that community to also think that we belong to something that's really big out there, right? And when we get out of our home environments, we realize how big the world is, how amazing and beautiful people there are, from every walk of life. And I'm always really grateful to have that. We live in a pretty small, not isolated, but we live in a pretty
Small
small,
town. Yeah.
relatively homogenous community. And I just love when I'm traveling, seeing so many different people, interacting with so many different people and different ideas and cultures and food. And so just, it really helps you just kind of reframe that the world is big and beautiful. And I'm just this small part of this amazingly big, beautiful thing.
Yes. That is a great beyond pillar.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, with that, this has just been super fun to talk a little bit about travel and what
I'm
works for
ready to
us.
travel. Let's go.
We would love to hear from you. Share with us, like and follow this podcast and get in touch with us and let us know your trip tips and travel tricks.
Yes.
Take care, everybody.